That hood scoop isn't decoration, and that carbon diffuser wasn't designed in a styling studio. This is what happens when GM stops playing defense against Cadillac and starts playing offense against everyone. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this truck doesn't just close the gap with the Escalade V, it reframes the entire question of what a performance SUV in this segment is supposed to cost and how it's supposed to perform. There's one specification on this truck that Chevy's own dealers won't fully appreciate until they've driven it back-to-back with an Escalade V. I'll get there. And the question everyone's going to ask, does a supercharger actually hold up under real ownership conditions? The answer isn't what the spec sheet suggests. We'll cover the cabin, the exterior architecture, and what's under that hood. And the origin of this program, it didn't start inside Chevrolet's family vehicle division. That detail matters, and I'll tell you why before this video is over. Here's what most people are going to miss about this truck. The decision to go supercharged isn't just a performance choice. It's a thermal management decision. A twin-scroll turbo at this displacement generates lag and heat soak that compounds under sustained load. Mountain passes, long highway pulls with a trailer, a positive displacement supercharger mechanically linked to the crankshaft produces its torque curve immediately and maintains it. But the real engineering story is what happens to that supercharger under extended performance driving. And this is where the X program reportedly departs from anything GM has production approved before. Speculative tech number one, what engineers close to this project are calling closed-loop supercharger thermal management, a dedicated liquid cooling circuit routed directly through the supercharger housing that holds inlet air temperature within a 12-degree variance regardless of ambient heat or sustained load. Standard superchargers heat soak and lose power on a long mountain run. This system doesn't. That's not a comfort feature. That's consistent power delivery when the driver actually needs it. My opinion, this is the engineering decision that separates a performance truck from a fast truck, and it connects directly to what you're about to see inside. Walk inside, and the display architecture tells you immediately who this cabin was designed for. The instrument cluster and infotainment share a single, continuous, curved glass panel, not two separate screens with a visible seam between them, but one unified surface. The engineering reason this matters, a single pane display eliminates the optical distortion that occurs at the edge of adjacent screen bezels, which is where your eye naturally travels when scanning from speed data to navigation. It sounds minor. After 4 hours on an interstate, it isn't. The carbon fiber throughout this cabin is applied with discipline. Steering wheel spokes, door inlays, center console surround, and the dashboard cap. What stands out is the consistency of the weave orientation across every panel. Matching carbon fiber grain direction across multiple separate components requires careful pre-production coordination. That's not an assembly line decision. Someone with authority signed off on that specification, and it signals intent. Speculative tech number two, a carbon fiber seat spine structure replacing the conventional steel seat frame. The engineering case, a carbon monocoque back frame reduces seat assembly weight by approximately 38% while increasing torsional stiffness, meaning the bolster and headrest positioning holds under lateral load rather than flexing. For anyone who's done a long run in a standard Tahoe and felt the seat giving slightly under cornering load, this is what that fix looks like when it's done properly. Where I think they've left an opening, the HVAC switchgear sits low on the center stack, requiring a significant drop in eye travel from the main display. At this specification and price point, those controls belong higher. It's an ergonomic decision that doesn't match the ambition visible everywhere else in this cabin. The interior makes a coherent argument for a $100,000 plus price point, but that argument is only as strong as what's happening at the exterior and under the hood. And this is where the backstory I mentioned at the start starts to make sense. Here's the piece I can share now. The X Supercharged program reportedly originated from not a product planning meeting inside Chevrolet, but from a lost contract. GM's fleet division was evaluated against a German manufacturer for a government executive protection vehicle brief in 2023. The feedback from that evaluation shaped every engineering priority visible in this truck. The X is the internal project codename. It was never intended to become a production nameplate. That context changes how you read the exterior, and the performance numbers are going to make the fleet evaluation story land a lot harder. Start at the front. The black grille surround and lower carbon splitter form a single integrated visual unit. No panel gaps, no visible fasteners at the transition. That integration tells you the front-end engineering was purpose-built for this specification, not pulled from an accessory package and bolted on. The hood scoop is functional. It's positioned over the supercharger intake path to reduce restriction at highway speed, where ram air pressure meaningfully reduces the work the blower has to do. This isn't styling, this is intake engineering with a body panel around it. The stance sits lower than a standard Z71. Sport-calibrated suspension drops ground clearance to approximately 7.5 inches from the production Tahoe's 8.9. The 22-inch dark machined wheels fill the arches proportionally without looking like they were sourced from a SEMA build. Overall length runs approximately 210 inches on a 116-inch wheelbase, full-size proportions maintained. Stance lowered, frontal area managed. Design verdict. This exterior holds because the modification logic is coherent from front to rear. Every visual change traces back to a functional reason. That's rare at this level. Now, the powertrain. 700 horsepower from the supercharged V8. And here's the context the Escalade V comparison requires. The Cadillac's 682 horsepower Blackwing is a remarkable engine, but it's tuned for a different brief. Luxury first, performance second. The supercharged setup in the X program is tuned in the opposite priority order. You feel that difference in the first 20 feet of a rolling merge. Speculative tech number 3, active exhaust resonance management. Electronically controlled bypass valves in the quad exhaust system that open fully above 4,000 RPM under wide-open throttle. The engineering purpose isn't sound. It's back pressure reduction. At peak RPM, open bypass valves reduce exhaust restriction, freeing an estimated 15 to 18 horsepower that a fixed exhaust system bleeds off as heat. For anyone who's driven a Hellcat and noticed the power delivery sharpening at the top of the rev range, this is the same principle applied to a full-size American SUV. The engineering case for this truck is stronger than I expected. Now the financial case has to stand next to it.
Now, here's what I actually think, and I'm going to be completely straightforward with you. That specification that Chevy's own dealers won't fully understand until they drive it back-to-back with the Escalade V, it's the thermal management on that supercharger. Every performance SUV at this price point eventually gets tested on a sustained mountain run with a full load. Most of them come back 40 horsepower down from heat soak. This one reportedly doesn't. That's the specification that wins fleet evaluations. And now it's available to the rest of us.
Pricing lands between $98,000 and $114,000, depending on configuration, which positions this truck above a fully loaded Tahoe High Country and below a base Escalade V by a meaningful margin. For context, a base Escalade V runs approximately $130,000 before options. At that delta, you're choosing between Cadillac badge equity and a purpose-engineered performance platform. That's a real decision, and experienced buyers should make it consciously, not by default. On depreciation, first-generation execution of a new sub-brand specification carries residual risk. Plan for that if you're financing over 60 months. On maintenance, a supercharged V8 at this output level carries higher service intervals and belt replacement costs than a naturally aspirated or turbocharged equivalent. Factor $800 to $1,200 per year into your ownership calculation, above a standard Tahoe. Here's the call. If you've been running GM trucks for the last 15 to 20 years, and you've been waiting for the factory to produce something that doesn't need aftermarket modifications to feel genuinely fast, this is that truck. If the Escalade nameplate is a professional requirement or a personal non-negotiable, go get the Escalade V. It earns that price. But if you want 700 horsepower, consistent power delivery at sustained load, a cabin that competes with vehicles costing $40,000 more, and a truck that didn't come from a styling brief, this is the most complete American performance SUV available right now.
At the open, I said that hood scoop wasn't designed in a styling studio. Having walked the full picture, the thermal management, the fleet brief, the exhaust engineering, it's clear this truck was built to win an evaluation, not a car show. Everything else followed from that. I genuinely love your perspective on this, especially if you've owned a supercharged GM product or cross-shopped the Escalade V. Drop it below. And if you want to see how this stacks up against the Escalade V in a direct head-to-head,
That video is right here. If this kind of real, no-nonsense automotive analysis is what you're looking for, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.